right
Fucking.
now.
I love how I get to say the fucking part every time.
Yeah, pretty much consistently.
I,
I think in older episodes you were saying right though when I was getting the fucking.
Yeah. Ironic, isn't it?
Don't you think?
Go ahead, John.
So,
Let's talk.
on this bed episode, and for those of you who are just listening and not watching, we're in bed. We figured it'd be fun to do it here, and it was perfectly coinciding.
Do it here.
Boom! Karen
But,
never misses a beat. It's especially appropriate because the topic or the jump off point I was excited to start from was imagination. And one quote I'd love to start with from Neville Goddard is desire is an invisible reality, or all desires are invisible realities. And when he explains it further, they're invisible in the sense that you're not experientially recognizing them as your physical reality, but that they're presenting themselves in imagination. They're visible enough that you have an image of it and a dream and a desire to go towards it. You're just not actually experiencing it. And Bashar describes imagination as essentially the communications pipeline between the higher self and the physical self. And it's designed to give you a focus of direction, like we were talking about a little bit in the last episode in terms of focus, of what to place your attention on in order to amplify what's resonant for you. And Abraham doesn't use that term that much. She does a bit, but basically the way she constructs it is whenever you know what you don't want because you're getting the emotional feedback, then you inherently know what you do want. So if you don't have enough money, you inherently know you do want money. And imagination is what would allow you to generate the emotional feeling and the focus of that preferred outcome.
And what I'm thinking is, you are such a great manifestor and creator that you must have imagined me in bed with you for I don't know how long in order to create this. So good job.
That is a very perceptive of you.
Your face is red. That matches your shirt.
I was just thinking as you said that, you can keep your imagination secret for a period of time until they actually manifest, and then they can no longer be secrets because they're out there in the open for all to see.
And here's the kicker. Not only has he been imagining this, but I'm the one who suggested it. Hey, let's do a bed episode. We've never shot there before.
And I said, perfect, I've been imagining that. And then imagination popped right in.
Of course it did, John.
Yes. So what's your perspective on what imagination is?
Oh gosh, it's so beautiful. Because I deal with a lot of people that say, oh, I can't visualize. And when I'm doing certain processes with people to shift their subconscious minds, I make sure now to never say the word visualize. I always say the word imagine. Because imagination doesn't have to be a picture. It could be anything. Like, how does it feel in your body when you're with your perfect partner, or when you're on that vacation, or when you're eating that delicious meal? Like, what does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What does it look like? Like, it's all the things. It's all the senses.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different areas you can zoom in on when you're imagining something. You could zoom in on any one of the senses, and when you pick one sense that's really giving you the feedback, there can sometimes be just one little element that really causes the largest emotional response. And I've been playing that more when I play with imagination in terms of what element in this scene is overall giving me the greatest emotional response. Like, I might imagine being on a private plane, and when I look at the giant tail fin and see my business logo on the tail fin, that zeroed in specific visual element within the overall visual picture is what sends like goosebumps down my spine. And I could just zero in on that one little thing. If someone was guiding me, they might say, what's the air like, and what does the pavement feel like? And those, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but they give minimal emotional feedback. But when I zoom in on that one little element, it just like ignites my whole soul, and then spending the most amount of time there.
I love that. I was just thinking, like, as we were talking about the senses, the research on the olfactory sense, like the smell of things, it is very much the thing that transports people back to their childhood or back to memories is a smell. And often when I visualize myself on a beach, I am inhaling that ocean, that smell. I'm like, so it's imagining, not visualizing, but it's all of it. Like, what does the air feel like on my skin? Like, I'm very sensory too. What is
Yeah.
the sound of the ocean waves, like, and what does it look like, as the sun's setting? All of it plays a big role because I do have this vision of me on this terrace on the Mediterranean with a partner that I don't have yet, or do I?
Ooh, there we go.
Ooh.
Invisible,
He's invisible right now.
but present.
He's present in my mind.
We know from the quantum all probabilities exist.
I know.
And that's where I was going to steer
Yeah.
next to draw that parallel in the idea of all probabilities existing in the quantum and you zeroing in on them. What else could imagination be from a quantum physics standpoint other than you starting to perceive a reality maybe like 20% or 10%
Yeah.
versus this reality which you're perceiving 80%? But like what else, if you were as a scientist going to define what imagination is structurally, what else could it be other than that of starting to perceive to a lesser extent another reality? And Neville Goddard, in a lot of his recordings and books that I've listened to, talks about starting to focus so much in on that vision that he has stories where he claims he's literally shifts to start experiencing that reality and then will shift back to the original reality and have evidence that he was in the other place. He told one story of being on a beach and got up and started talking to people, and it was early on, one of the first few times he had that experience of literally in the moment shifting to a new reality, and was talking to people and being like, do you realize what happened? And he was saying the people in that beach reality were reacting to him in his regular reality in the sense that they were like, what are you, crazy? Like, what are you talking about? And people are never really going to confirm for you what you've just done. But he claims when he shifted back to the original reality, he had like sand in his pockets coming
Wow.
from that experience. And how exhilarating would that be if you could just shift locations and experiences like that?
Gosh, it's so much fun to play with too. And here's the thing that I truly believe 100% that if you can imagine something, that it is meant for you. Like we live in a kind universe. It's not going to say, "Oh, here's this carrot. I'm going to dangle it in front of your face." But nope, you can't have it. Nope. I mean, if you can see it, if you can feel it, if you can taste it, if you can hear it, what did I miss? See it? I don't know. Whatever I missed. Taste. I don't know.
Yes.
Then it's meant for you. So shift, right? Like we get to play.
Yes.
What is it like when we're
Yes.
in that reality?
Every single person who I love the message of consistently says the purpose of life is joy. Nothing is ever withheld from you except what you withhold from yourself. The creator is pure love. If God or source or all that is pure love, it would never deny anything from you. The only person who could deny you something is yourself. Your own denial may result in reality manifesting a person who's standing there, nope, that's never going to happen. But they're only saying that because you decided to deny yourself and they came as a physical reflection of that denial. But I'm 100% with you in choosing that perspective. Source, the creator, God, the universe, it wants to give you everything you're asking for. It's just a matter of focusing on it to bring that experience in. But as Abraham says, you could be or do or have anything you want. And they literally say, we're literally stating that. It's not a proverb, it's not a
Right.
idea, it's literally a statement of fact. So if that's a statement of fact, then no one could deny me for a second except myself.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Like I like to be balanced with things, and I think Abraham's fantastic. And I think the missing piece for a lot of people that aren't manifesting what they want is really deriving pleasure from these situations that you think you don't want, because your subconscious mind is creating them for you, because secretly you are loving them. And if you focus on them, like what you're creating, and notice the physical sensations, the things you say you don't like, what are the physical sensations? And do they remind you of anything that you do like? Like for me, I'd probably use this example, but my fluctuating bank account is much like the thrill of a roller coaster. I'm like, oh, Oh, when's the next hill? When's the next drop? Like, and can I pull it out before it hits zero? Like, oh, and then it's exciting. And if I don't make those sensations wrong, if I'm like, oh, I just like get off on the juiciness of them, then my bank account stabilized. I mean, that's the truth of what I experienced. So focusing on what I want is one thing, but the other part is focusing like, okay, I have this. This is what I have. And what part of me is loving this? And then which part of me is judging it? So if I could just release the judgment and just enjoy my body to really like get off on shame. Like, oh, yep, I'm sick. I'm a kinky motherfucker, but I love this shame. Oh my God, it's making me like wet. But when I can do that, then it has no hold over me. And then I'm free to create.
Yes, that's powerful. Abraham basically describes the structure of creation as being a desire. So you look at what you don't like, you know what you do like. So there's your desire, a ton of money. And then it has to come. It has to come. And a lot of other people seem to suggest this. The only thing that's impeding or slowing down the process of it becoming is like a shroud of your personally chosen beliefs. And as soon as you can lower the beliefs, create supportive beliefs, play with the beliefs in a way that make this focused desire conducive to becoming a reality, it will become a reality. So that it seemed to be like a structural way of describing exactly what you were experientially defining. And I love that. It's just the shroud of beliefs impairing my capacity to know that desire is real. And I know it's real because I can imagine it. Mm-hmm. And if I can imagine it, it must mean it's a potential experiential reality.
And it's meant for you.
Hell yes.
But the belief part, I mean, the more I study the subconscious mind, the more I realize that we're not choosing our beliefs. They are installed in us from a very young age. And you know, in the rapid resolution therapy world, we call that moralistic thinking.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we are programmed, like if we disappoint or anger our food bringer, we know that that means death. Like we cannot survive without their approval.
Yes.
And they use our innate fear of abandonment as like, let's add some more power to the remote control.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we come to these places where we're adults and we have this meaning that we made when we were like infants or 2 or 7, and they don't fit anymore, but they're with us. These are our beliefs. And then we beat ourselves up like, oh, why do I believe this? This makes no sense. Well, no, it doesn't make any sense, and you can't help it. So like I think for me, the quickest way to get rid of this shit, these beliefs that aren't serving you, is to do some RRT. Like it's so fast and people can shift all kinds of stuff in one session.
Define RRT?
Oh, rapid resolution therapy. It's so fast. And then you have a blank slate. And then you're like, all these upper limits that people hit, like there's no reason to hit them anymore because you don't have those beliefs. Your mind is now updated, it's refreshed, it's rebooted, it's entertaining thoughts that have value. Because when we have thoughts about things that are happening in the past and our mind is creating emotions like, oh, you better do something about that event that happened in the past, then we get in these spirals and we can't get out.
Yes.
So RRT, I mean, I'm going to get on a soapbox because this is...
It's your jam.
It's what I do partially. But there are lots of other practitioners in the world. But it is the quickest way to resolve that stuff so you don't keep bumping up against it and blaming yourself, thinking there's something wrong with you, because there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a tiny glitch in your brain that got installed in there, not by you. So stop blaming yourself.
I love that. And I've lately been feeling a huge power in seeing those beliefs that I bought into previously that other people presented me with, and then realizing, wait, I don't choose this to be my belief anymore, and shifting past it, but feeling so much exhilaration in the process of identifying out of alignment beliefs and so much empowerment in choosing my preferred beliefs that I actually find appreciation for the people who offered the limiting beliefs earlier on, because otherwise the game that I'm playing with life of that of expanding consciousness, becoming unlimited, I couldn't experience that game if I didn't choose a starting point where I was covered in limiting beliefs and
Right.
covered in lies. There's some Vertical Horizon song I love where the refrain is, "You're covered in lies and that's okay." And I'm getting goosebumps now. And I see it so clearly. If I chose to incarnate in this life for the experience of expansion and joy, then I would obviously pick a starting point where I would cover myself in lies for the joy of finding them all, shedding them all, and ultimately being completely free.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
you have to experience a contrast, don't you think, in order to really fully appreciate the opposite?
Yes. That whole adage of everything existing on a like a polarity continuum, you can't have hot without cold. They both have to exist for the experience of temperature. So the same thing for the feeling of unlimited, at least as an experience and a reality, you would have to create limitation as the opposite end of the stick for this whole game and process to take place. And like you're saying, finding joy and power and guilt and shame is the same thing. Finding joy and power in discovering the limiting beliefs and being like, thank you for being there. I found you. Like, what a great game for me.
It is fun. It's like it all is fun unless you take it too serious. And right, there's nothing serious going on here.
Yes. And if there's times when Abraham's phrase, "there's nothing serious going on here," feels discordant within me. And that's when I realize, oh, I can see what emotional state I'm in because something that I know is the truth isn't feeling good. Getting that emotional feedback, hey, go general, it's too big of a jump from where you are now. Slow it down, meditate, defocus, slap a piece of cheese on my face. We talked about in the last episode, if you didn't watch that. And then, get to that point where you can then start to tip up and feel the joy of an accurate statement like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love it. Or, go pet some puppies.
Yes.
I pet a puppy in your hallway, John.
Did you? Aw.
It wasn't a puppy, but it was a dog and it was little.
I love dogs everywhere. We have a bunch in the building.
I know.
They just immediately raise my vibration. I started doing that lately when I'm having a moment and realizing it. I'll shift to neutral and be like, okay, in my imagination, can I pet a puppy right now? I usually go for a little dachshund or a little chihuahua. I love like the little chihuahua, like it's a little apple head. Anyway,
Oh, yes.
if I can pet one of them in my imagination, it like tips me up just in a hurry like that.
That reminds me of something like one technique that I share with people when they're having difficult conversations or conversations with difficult people. If they can put between the person's face and their face, whatever their preference is, a kitten, a puppy, or a baby, their whole face softens because you're not going to have a hard face if you're looking at a baby or a puppy or a kitten. I mean, depending on what your preference is. And then imagine how that other person's going to perceive you, what your energy is going to be like. This kind of goes back to our last episode too. Like, if you can approach that person with the love, the same open heart and love that you have for a baby, a kitten, or a puppy, then how differently will you be perceived and how different will the response be?
That is awesome. And I love that you mentioned it. Everything we mentioned is so timely. The last week, I've been meeting people, friends, whatnot, to have conversations with, and I've been telling them, hey, I'm gonna close my eyes a bunch during the conversation. Know that I'm more focused in than ever before by closing my eyes, but just play with me in this. And what I imagine as I'm talking to them is seeing a huge smile on their face the whole time. I realized I was getting distracted by zeroing in on what I'm perceiving are less than happy expressions on their face. And I was tailoring what I was saying and what I was doing in response to that. And by closing my eyes and just seeing a smile on their face, it was giving me like what I would call the Christ perspective, seeing them as happy and whole just as they are, just like you were describing, and finding so much power in that and seeing people who frequently like vibrate around, or I chose to perceive as frequently vibrating around. Now that I'm perceiving him in that way, at the end of the conversation, we're both totally flying high.
Wow.
And it's a beautiful exercise. And I wasn't phrasing it from the start off perspective of let me know if it frustrates you, closing your eyes or whatever. I make the statement, I'm going to close my eyes. It's something that's benefiting both of us. Just play with me a little bit in this, not making things questions, not making things up for feedback, just stating what I'm going to do. And if that's not resonant with them, they're welcome to get up and leave. But everyone stayed, and it's been a really cool exercise.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
You've never done that with me. You must not trust me.
You're easy.
If you said play with me, I would have been tickling you. I would have been like, who knows what I would have done, John.
Whoa.
Now you're definitely going to do it.
Whoa. You're very easy to stay aligned when I look at. Or when I look at you, it's very easy for me to stay aligned. There's other people who I perceive as having different vibrations in their facial expressions, and those are the ones that I've really been playing with. But it's making me think of an Abraham line as well, where she's saying, you dominate a conversation or a room or a whole situation by only having your own perspective in mind. You only have the perspective of self. You're not taking into consideration anyone else's perspective. And it's interesting because a mainstream thought process would generally be, it's rude to not take someone else's perspective into mind. But what Abraham is offering is, if someone's in a lower vibrational state and feeling bad, and they're saying, hey, come down here with me into the pit and the sorrow party and start feeling bad, you're taking into consideration their perspective and adjusting your vibration down to meet them. She's saying, if you want to shift your reality, you got to own the room by only having perspective of self. And you saying to the other person, you want to play with me, you got to come up here with me, but I'm not going down there with you. And when you lock in and close the eyes, it makes it easy to hold that. You like that?
So much of that could be dirty, John.
Oh, shit.
I love it so much.
Karen.
I'm not going down. You got to come up. Like,
Yeah.
like, come on, John. You're just like lobbing them to me. Yes. And remember back to one of our very first episodes, we talked about the law of perpetual transmutation, which states that the highest vibrating person in the room, the highest frequency in the room, can consume all the lower energies if they're aware of the law. So once you're aware of it, if your vibration is the highest, just know that you're in control. You can elevate the entire room.
Yes.
Everybody's coming up.
The trick is...
Nobody's going down, baby.
Yes.
It's a sad day. It's a sad day indeed.
I love it. That's the trick, though. If you realize I am flying high and you see people offering other vibrations, deciding that's not going to be my focus. I'm going to be up here
Yeah, meet
and
me in
really
love.
holding it.
Meet
The
me in
trick,
love.
though, is you really have to only recognize your own perspective. You cannot really, if you focus too much on that perspective, it's kind of like the Glade skiers. You're on your path. Yep, I'm perfectly on my path. That person's a tree over there. And they're like, hey, come towards me. You look at that tree long enough, you're going to go into the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, like just like when people, if I'm in a social situation and people are offering a vibration that's not in alignment with me, I walk away. I don't even say anything.
Yes.
It's not fun.
Yes.
And I'm going where the fun is. If
Yes.
people are laughing, that's where I'm going.
Yes.
I gravitate towards those. The ones that are complaining, nope. It's like, it's like a hell no for me.
That's the true power I see in action. If I see a circumstance that's not resonant, I can feel it, taking the action to step away from it. Or if I see something that looks fun and exciting, going towards it. And then you see how the shroud of beliefs will tell you, oh, I can't leave this bad feeling circumstance because, and then you're like, oh, now I see you belief. Or I can't run towards that exciting puppy or circumstance because there's the belief. Like the beliefs are always slapping me in the face. It's just a matter of if I'm gonna consciously acknowledge them and then decide in the moment, this belief feels terrible. It's stopping me from doing what I'm obviously feels better and choosing it.
Don't you love, like, when John and I are in a room together, people come toward us because we're always laughing. And we have this, I don't know, this thing.
A draw.
It's a draw because we're always in truth and having fun and just playing, right?
Yeah.
And then people come toward us, and then other people don't.
Yes.
There are people that never come toward us, actually.
Actually, yes. I can think to several
Think
times
about
we've
it.
hung out around groups.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are some who never come near. Yeah.
Interesting. And we never go near them either.
Yeah. And that's cool. That's like the law of attraction in action.
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, I'll acknowledge too, those other people might actually be vibing higher than I am.
Yeah.
And maybe I haven't prepared
Right.
and pre-paved enough to vibe at their level. It could be anything. It's all how I define it. And actually, if all truths are true, that would be a more exciting definition, because I would always love to have people who are flying even higher than I would in my immediate vicinity to offer me that. Ooh, yeah.
I
Look
love
at
that.
Yeah.
Now we gotta like feel into everybody. I'm always like so consumed in what's going on, like, you know, with me. I'm always very present with people.
Yeah.
Whoever I'm with. And I don't really notice anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, being
super
100%
present.
focused.
Yes. But that's interesting. Like I could feel, like allow myself to feel, put out my tentacles.
Yeah. And what's interesting too, like we were discussing before, so you put out your tentacles and you feel emotional feedback from someone and you're like, ooh, that's discordant.
Yeah.
What if, or I know I can close my eyes and see them in a different state. And then I'm literally, because as Neville Goddard says, reality is fucking imagination. That's what it is. It's just crystallized, solidified imagination. I change what I perceive them putting out in real time. And like in your last episode with the fight you were observing and changed it, you literally changed the output of that other person, because all of reality inside outside is one thing that's underneath my command. At least my reality is, just as your reality is under your command.
Thus, I'm in the bed with you.
Damn, Karen.
Yes, master.
You're pointing out what a powerful magnet of attraction I am. Yes, master, I like that. I'm not going to argue with that.
I bet you do.
Everybody wants to rule the world. Remember that song from the 80s?
Of course. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I keep dragging it down, John.
I like
you
that.
You keep trying to lift it up. I keep dragging it down. You're like, I'm not going down with you. I'm like, yeah, oh yes, you are.
In the sexiest possible way.
Of course. That's the only way that I will ever mean it.
Fuck yeah.
So what do you imagine would be a great close to this episode?
Ooh, well said. I would imagine everyone coming for a ride on my private 747, because I can zero in on that tail fin. How much fun would it be to have a party with 100 people on a giant airplane with like hardly any seats, just like some swivel seats?
That'd
Big
be
party
super
space.
fun.
I see like a chandelier. It's one of those planes that has 2 stories to it, but I took out the floor in one section. So there's like a chandelier. You could like look up to a balcony on the 2nd floor on a plane.
Nice.
Yes.
As long as there's dancing, I'm there.
Yes, of course.
It's got to be dancing.
Yeah, dance floor.
Yes.
Fit all sorts of stuff in there.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it.
That visualization of excitedly seeing more. Like, what if I could own a 747? What if?
Of course you can.
If I can imagine it exists.
Wouldn't
as a
it be
reality.
fun?
Yes.
I love that exercise. Wouldn't it be fun if, instead of like having to have it or making it important, just like, wouldn't it be fun
Yes.
if the hottest guy ever was downstairs in the lobby and asked me out? That'd be really fun.
The hottest guy ever is sitting next to you right now. Just
I
putting
mean,
that out there.
you know, a different one. He's not my podcast co-host.
Facts. I love that. I'll envision that with you. Yes. What am I saying? I can close my eyes and see you meeting him
Yes.
right now.
All right.
Yes.
You don't know my type, but that's all right.
I know it feels good.
It does feel
Source
really
knows
good.
your type.
Yes, that is true.
Cool.
That
Well,
is
I
true.
enjoyed this bed episode very much.
Yes, it's fun.
It's
like
comfy.
super comfy and cozy.
This worked well.
Yes.
How do we end this one?
We got a
little
cuddle.
snuggle. Yeah. Right
Thank
there.
you for watching and listening to Right
Fucking.
Now.
Sweet, I got the fucking on the way out.
I hooked you up.
Peace out, everybody.